Welcome back to the Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio out here at the Combine for another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. If you're in the market for a new car, you won't find a good one here because the only good cars are back home in New Orleans and they're at Matt Bauer's dealership, so make sure you go check them out there. Nobody else will get you the prices that Matt does, so hit him up if you're looking for a new car. First topic today is presented by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Saints are kind of talking like they're keeping Derek Carr. That was kind of the big takeaway of the day, and they are going to be active in free agency. What do we think?
The two go hand in hand. Like it's we've kind of been wondering. They did something different by signing or hiring Kellen Moore as the head coach, so they're not set in the same old ways. Does that mean maybe they'll change a lot of other things too? And it sounds like no.
Yeah.
Derek Carr staying is not a huge surprise, but it's also, I think it's Derek Carr staying. I think he said more active. Mickey Loomis told us more active in free agency than even last year when they signed Chase Young, Willie Gay, a couple other pieces. And this is a team that's going to try to win the division this year. And I'm kind of torn on it. I was ready for the reset, but I'm ready for the reset because I think the outlook looks bleak. I'm like, if you can't win anyway, take the opportunity to reset. They just plain don't feel the same way. They're going to bring back Demario Davis, and there's a few people they might not. We'll see what happens with Taysom Hill and Cam Jordan, among others. But they're going to keep players. They're going to try to add to players. They're going to try to use most of their 9 draft picks, and they're going to, they've already changed out the medical staff. They're going to try to have better injury prevention and injury luck, and they still think that they're a team that can win this division. And they're probably not wrong, even though I thought maybe we were going to see the other approach. But I think it's pretty clear from everyone we've talked to off the record here, definitely from who we talked to on the record today, they're as I said, keeping their foot softly on the gas pedal.
Yeah. There's a lot here. There's a lot of thoughts to go towards. I think my biggest takeaway on the whole thing is that, I kind of got to see how all the pieces look before I can really come to this is the right way, this is the wrong way, because it could be the right way if they're still doing things to set themselves up for the future around this. And I've always have felt the best cap management method here was to keep him and to kind of whittle away at the other spots. And then if you're going to part ways, make it a 2-year thing. I never thought it was good cap business to just straight up cut him and then you're kind of stuck with everyone, and then you're restructuring a bunch of guys you don't want to restructure. And I feel like the tentacles of the mess widen through that approach, as opposed to having it be there's this one tentacle and everything's going to run through this, and then we're going to deal with it as we can and try to remain a little bit competitive while rebuilding. But if they don't kind of do all that, it's tough. It's tough for me to kind of feel like that's the right way to go, because if you just keep your foot on the gas and you aren't pulling any pieces off, it feels like you're in a worse situation a couple of years from now. And we're going to see kind of how it comes together. I
don't want to see them go out and spend in free agency like they're the Vikings or the Broncos or like a team that's ready to go for it right now.
I'm okay with spending in free agency if it's on the right guys. If you're getting good guys, if you're getting good guys and you're still kind of handling your business over here with, okay, we need to get younger here, we need to pull this guy
players
out.
That are 27 years old or whatever.
If you're going out and you're signing Demario Davis, I don't care that you're doing it now or next year.
Don't sign Devontae Adams. Don't go sign Devontae Adams.
Yes, make moves that are setting you up in 2-3 years from now. Make sure everything's kind of forward thinking. You can spend like that, and I'm cool with it. It doesn't have to be like a staunch kind of cutoff point, but. Yeah, Devontae Adams is a perfect example. Don't go get him because it's gonna make you better just this year. I wouldn't love that kind of move. Now, granted, we could say all this stuff and they win 11 games and it's like, wow, that turned out to be the right thing. But at this point, as I'm kind of shaping my thoughts about the team, I still firmly believe in everything we've ever said, and I've always felt that the 2-year thing. Although I thought there was merit to okay, if you just want to cut it off and go ahead and be really, really bad. But I thought Kellen Moore had a poignant line today. He said, the one thing you can't ever do is stand up there and say we aren't competing for the division title. And I think if you do too much and you're just kind of trimming it down and, okay, we're going to be terrible this year, that's an easy thing in theory, a very hard thing in practice.
The Carr decision, Carr's cap situation, the size of his salary, the size of his dead money if you cut him, it leads to a very black and white decision. You either keep him, and you're spending so much money on him that you're trying to compete right now. And then you should add to that, because as you've said, you don't spend $40 million on Derek Carr and then give him absolutely nothing to work with. So, but if you cut him, you're not cutting him and still trying to win 10 games. If you cut him, you're like taking this year off. Like it means you can't sign anyone in free agency. It means you're wasting whatever's left of your restructure and everybody else. And so it was a pretty black and white decision. This is the one I predicted they would take, even though I was kind of hoping for the other one. But I think I was kind of hoping for the other one mostly because it's new and it's different and it's pointing towards something. And I'm jealous of. We've seen a lot of Broncos people here or whatever. It's like, yeah, you got a rookie quarterback and you went to the playoffs. Like, that's where we want to see the Saints get to at some point. But when I did that cap analysis this weekend, there's still a path to that. I mean, there is still a path to keeping Derek Carr and being 2 years away from being the Broncos if they ever find their quarterback in the draft. And so this doesn't completely mean they're never going to rebuild, but it absolutely means they're not doing it in an all-in way. That's for sure. The Carr piece is worth discussing in and of itself. I mean, we had kind of heard that they're talking, at least broaching the subject of his contract looking different. Right now, it's $40 million this year, $50 million next year, which basically makes it a 1-year, $40 million contract. It's not going to get $50 million next year. So does that mean extension with pay cut? I really don't know what it would look like if it's going to look any different. We've said it a million times. Like, I think Carr is better than most people give him credit for. I think $40 million is too much to pay him. So I wonder if we even feel better about what his contract looks like. That would maybe make me feel a little better about it.
I think they're going to discuss a lot of things. I think the thing that the Saints have going in their advantage is if Derek Carr got cut, he's not getting what he could get from the Saints.
Of course.
And if you kind of use that number as leverage over them, like if you're on Derek Carr's side, you can probably get more money out of the Saints than you would anywhere else.
Yep.
And if you're the Saints, you're like, well, all right, we can keep a quarterback who we think is kind of, solid. He's a good an okay quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to do better here than we would in free agency, and we can lower this number. Let's lower the number down to this and, keep him around and try to figure it out from there. Because if you get rid of Derek, it's the dead money hit, and if you don't feel like Spencer's ready, and you can, I don't care how much you think of Spencer Rattler, you can't go into a season with him anointed your starter, no competition.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do it. So it's cutting Derek plus adding someone to bring in as viable competition, preferably the starter. Like, and Spencer beats out someone that you're signing to be your starter. So it's a double-edged thing here where it's two expenses in one, and now you've put all your money into that. So, yeah, you could maybe try to rework it in some type of way where, he's staying and getting less money and somehow increasing his guarantee somehow. Maybe it's adding the second year. People would hate that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's no good choices
I'm
here.
sure there's a lot of conversations, though. It's like probably one of many ideas of that they're going to look at and try to figure out, kind
one
of what
of the
to do with it.
Our impression, my impression from talking with people, I mean, one of the key things that we come away with is that there is alignment here on, like, I think if Kellen Moore came in and he was like, I can't wait to get my hands on my Bo Nix or my J.J. McCarthy. That's my vision for this team. I think they listen to this. Every indication we're getting is that Kellen Moore wants to roll with Derek Carr as well. Like, I don't know if he wants him at a certain price and if he's looked at all the ramifications and everything like that. But I don't know. I mean, I'm torn. I feel like you can understand both sides of the argument, and none of them are good. So they're like, if you're on the other side of the argument, you're gonna be like, no, this. I mean, I saw the responses to this. It's not great, and obviously, because the reality of this team is not great. But door number 2 is not great either. Like, this team's in a really tough spot right now. We heard way more optimism today, probably because they're 0-0 and it's February, than I have for this team right now. But this is the expected result. This is what I expected to hear today, I think.
Yeah. The continuation of this Derek Carr conversation is presented by Shea Rare Insurance, the Earhart Agency. I mean, the fact of the matter is, though, and we've been saying this, like, I think the path forward if you allow me to kind of go blank slate, no ramifications, no locker room blowback, the path forward for me that I want to see him take is something new, clean, lead you to a younger quarterback, someone that's part of like the ultimate rebuild that, you know, becomes a building block of your team. Obviously you want that path, and if you aren't finding it, I want them to be bad enough to find an answer to it. The problem with that is always you might not draft the right guy. You might end up getting Anthony Richardson, and he's not an answer. So it's a very hard thing to find your way out of. The reality of the situation is you have Derek Carr, you have Spencer Rattler, you have Jake Haener. If you're Kellen Moore, you're coming into a situation and you're trying to win games, and everything else aside, there is obviously one guy that gives you the best chance to win a game tomorrow, and it's Carr. And people don't want to hear that, but the reality of the situation is he is the most talented quarterback on this team. And like, I understand that decision as well, but I just need to see, if you're doing this, that it's a patch and you're still looking for a way over here. And you know, unfortunately, I do think the best way to get over here is just to go over here. Like, I don't think it's living over here and trying to find a way to make the two paths connect. We've seen it kind of happen, you know, forever. Some teams get lucky and they find they go from one to the other and they keep going, but it's very hard to do it by design. But the reality is getting over here, once you're over here, you might not ever find a way to, you know, actually get your car moving on that road. And it's
your car.
It's impossible. Like, finding a quarterback can be an impossible thing. I mean, honestly, going right back to the Colts, like, since Andrew Luck is retired, they're a great example of it. It's kind of temp situation, get really bad, draft Anthony Richardson, whoops, still screwed, looking for a temp situation, and it might take them another 10 years to find their way out of it. You just never really know. So, like, I get the reluctance to kind of just go over here. I think it's easy for me, the people in the YouTube comments, for you, for everybody to say, like, no, I want to go over here and explore this until you're over here. Like, you know, at the end of the Drew Brees thing, it was, I'm ready for something else. Well, this is something else. You know what I mean? Like, it's very easy to say, I want to go this direction until you're over there. So I can sit here and scream it from the blue moon or whatever the phrase is, but like, I also understand there's logic to, like, we're gonna play it out this way and kind of keep trying to figure it out, because like, this guy isn't the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Well, here's what Derek Carr is. This is you know, sometimes the comments that are so abundant can kind of help shape. I think there's a debate over whether Derek Carr is good or whether he's bad, but his record as the Saints starter, even in these bad years with all these injuries and Dennis Allen, the coach, is 14-13. Even that is polarizing. I have seen so many people be like, the guy's not a winner. He's 14-13. And then someone else might be like, he's 14-13 with this kind of pile of trash that he's had to work with. I think 14-13 is a perfect description of what Derek Carr is. Like, that's not even an opinion. Like, he's a 14-13 quarterback. So that's your debate is, if that's not good enough for you, you don't want Derek Carr. The Saints are like, that gives me a fighting chance. 14-13 could be 16-11 pretty easily if our luck changes. 16-11 would be great. So, like, that's not even an opinion on Derek Carr. I think he is a 14-13 quarterback. So the question is, what, you know, do you hate that? I totally understand that a lot of people hate that. A lot of people everybody wants to find their Joe Burrow. Like, nobody wants to nobody wants to settle for 14-13.
It's horrible.
But that's what Derek Carr is. He's a 14-13 quarterback. And the Saints want to keep the 14-13 quarterback and hope that, you know, he is 2 wins away from being 16-11. I mean, how many games has he, by his own default, not been able to make that one last play at the end of the game, where the Eagles made one last play at the end of the game? Like, so it's very interesting to me that there's even people that use that as their argument. The guy's not a winner, he's 14-13. He is a 14-13 quarterback. Like, that's what he is.
That's what he's been. Yeah, and look,
and they're okay with that. I don't necessarily agree, but like that's.
I don't know. I don't know that I would say they're okay with it, but they feel like you can. They think they can inflate it.
Yeah.
They think they can put some wind underneath it and inflate it a little bit. And you know, you mentioned it earlier. My biggest criticism of the Derek Carr era is that they got Derek Carr and they said, take us somewhere. And it's like, no, you put Derek in the passenger seat and you kind of got to put all these people around him and say, like, we can get there with him in the car, and that's how it can work. We're going to hit a quick break and keep talking right after this. Ochsner Hospital for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine on Clearview Parkway is celebrating 5 years of exceptional achievements. The hospital's integrated team has successfully performed over 20,000 surgeries using the latest in cutting-edge technology. With nationally recognized services and impactful partnerships, they continue to lead the advancement of orthopedic and sports medicine care in our region.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com. Welcome back to the show. The continuation of this conversation is presented by Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. So, like, what does that look like to keep building around them? Like, what do you, how do you do it in a responsible way? I thought the most interesting thing to me is that Mickey said that they are going to be more aggressive, slightly at least, like some degree of aggressiveness higher
there were like 2 or 3
than they were last
follow-ups. He made it very clear. He said, I think we're going to be pretty active in free agency. More active than last year? Yeah, I would say more active than last year. So last year was Chase Young, 1 year prove-it deal, over $10 million a year, up to $13 million. Willie Gay for about $3 million. Help me out here. 1 or 2 more guys at the Willie Gay level, right? Wasn't there?
Will Harris was in there.
Will Harris.
It wasn't any big spending last year. Yeah.
And the year before was kind of similar. And Nathan Shepard at Colin Saunders. And so slightly more than that, I'm thinking is still not back to, there's not going to be a Jarris Bird in here, but maybe it's going to be adding 4 Willie Gay types, adding 1 more Chase Young level type. Maybe bringing back Paulson Adebo, maybe bringing back Chase Young, maybe bringing back Juwan Johnson. Like, they're not going into a hiring freeze or a spending freeze is what I think was clear about that. I don't think we're going to see, they're the all-in team like the Jaguars from a couple years ago in free agency. I certainly don't think we're going to see that. But I think we're going to see a team that is going to fill in some of those gaps that are very clearly on this team through free agency. I don't love it, but we did this exercise. We were in the airport. How many people can we say definitively are going to be on this team in 2026? And we got to about 10, maybe 12 if you really stretched it. This team's close to a blank slate. Like they're going to catch up on the cap just because they're not invested in anyone beyond next year. So I don't think they're dead if they try this. I wouldn't do it, but I think that's what they're going to do.
Here's my real, not trying to be crowd pleasing, playing to the anger answer. Like if we go back a couple shows, like we've talked about what's the floor, what's the basement or the ceiling and the floor on the team, and it was like, well, if everything
what's the floor and what's the basement is kind of the conversation about the Saints right now.
But I think I think everyone sat there and they're like, I think the ceiling, like if they added some guys and kind of tried to win, like there's probably a 10-win team in there, and they could just bomb out and end up at like 3 or 4, and I still think that's true. And I don't know, like I don't like the idea of just trying to chase the NFC South title, but like I don't think it's so bottomed out to the point where you could tell me like they're gonna try to hit that, bolster the roster, have some depth, and try to see if they can, what a healthy team might do. I couldn't sit here and tell you without trying to do like crowd service. I couldn't sit here and say that that's the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. It's just not, and that's gonna piss some people off because there's it's everything's either the greatest thing in the world or the worst thing in the world. You're either the Titans or you're the Eagles, and there's no in between. But like, it's not the most insane thing in the world. It's not what I would do. I don't, I'm not chasing the NFC South title just for the sake of it, but it's not so crazy that I can sit here and say, nope, that's the wrong thing to do. Let me see what they do.
Well, there's a lot of people
let me see what that looks like. If you're adding good young players like at a price and they're part of your future, and it's also, well, like, hey, we're going to try to compete while also building a better future instead of like short-term answers for short-term solutions. Let me just see what it looks like before I shit all over it and say this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
There's a lot of teams that exist in that world, and I'm thinking of them as you were sitting there talking. Buccaneers, for sure. I've used that as a comp a million times. The Buccaneers are in that world. Seahawks are in that world. The Steelers are in that world. Even the world famous Steelers that can do no wrong. They like hover around 9-10 wins every year. The Vikings, only they've hit more successfully than people thought, but they've been living in that world for the last few years. I get the indignation over it with the
so
Saints.
do I. Like I don't agree with the path. I don't.
But when I think of those teams, I don't think, what are the Steelers and the Vikings and the Seahawks and the Buccaneers doing? That doesn't surprise me that teams are just existing in that. They could go 8-9 or 9-8 this year.
The problem with the Saints' PR on that path is that they're a 5-win team. They aren't the 8-win team that they're the 5-win team.
But some of those teams drop to 5 every once in a while.
And they had a ton of injuries. Like you can't get there. But like their problem with it, trying to tell people that is that well, no, they won 5. They aren't the Steelers. Like okay,
Browns,
but
they fell this year.
Yeah.
Like there's.
Well, I don't want to be the Browns.
But half the league, well, they have a particular situation there. But half the league,
they have a few situations.
Half the league exists in this. We aren't the Titans and we aren't the Eagles.
No doubt.
Half the league operates that way, and I don't look at all those teams and think they're crazy. So the Jaguars, that's another one. Like I understand that the Saints are. Why would we purposely blow it up when we think we're smart enough and we can hit on a couple of things that'll get us. So I get it. And I've defended that approach the last 3 years. Like definitely in 21, definitely in 22, definitely in 23, a little less so in 24. I was starting to fade. And this year I've finally reached the end of my rope. But I understand at least why they haven't. I understand the thinking that if we're a little healthier and we actually hit on a couple draft picks and we hit on a couple, what if we're the team that signs a Zach Bond in free agency this year? And his name came up today too. Like they do feel like they're close to 10, 11 wins. Yeah. That might be absurd, but if you feel that way, you don't think, no, what you should do is quit trying and completely quit. Like I get it, but I also get why. It's almost like they've used up their attempts. Like,
that's the thing. That's the thing.
What they don't have is fan patience
That's
anymore.
The thing. If it was at the beginning of this, and it was okay, they look pretty good at the beginning of the season, and there were all these insane injuries, like maybe it's worth finding out what's underneath the rubble here.
It
was the fourth year in a row. They keep missing. It keeps feeling like the same thing. I am so ready for the rebuild, and I was Mr. Never rebuild.
They even got to you finally.
But I can't sit here and act like it's the most insane thing in the world. I can't, and I'm willing to be proven wrong on it. But we've reached a point in this where it's like, instead of me being like, no, I'm not tearing it down. I'm not doing it. Like it's reached a point where it's like, I'm over here and you got to prove me wrong, and I'm willing to be proven wrong, and I'm not going to kill you for trying to prove me wrong. But if you're going to prove me wrong, you better prove me wrong. Like, you got to do it at this point. And if you don't, at the end, it's going to be like, when are you going to look at this the real way? That's where I'm at with it. I'm on this side, but I'm not so far down that there's no coming back from the crossroads. But like, something happened last year where I got pushed up the path. You know?
Question.
Yeah, and
No question.
you just have to prove me wrong. You got to bring me back and prove me wrong. But like, I can still hear it. I can still see it. I can look over here and I'm still questioning my decision. But like, I'm definitely on the other side of it at this point.
Look, I've said this 5 million times over the last 3 years. It doesn't matter where you stand in this argument. Nothing will work if you don't draft better. Tanking and rebuilding absolutely won't work if you don't draft better. But this won't work either if you don't draft better. You have to draft better, because even if you do hang on to Cam Jordan and Taysom Hill and Demario Davis and Tyrann Mathieu and Alvin Kamara this year, you get 1, maybe 2 years tops with all those 5 guys. Like, you need a new Tyrann Mathieu, a new Demario Davis, a new Cam Jordan, a new Alvin Kamara, a new Ryan Ramczyk, a new Teron Armstead, a new Michael Thomas, and none of the debate is even worth having if you don't start drafting better.
We are going to keep rolling with this conversation. The next topic, or the continuation of it, is presented by Aaron Rose. So, if Carr's coming back, and it seems like he is.
Yeah.
What's that do for Cam, Tyrann, Demario, Taysom, some of the older guys?
I don't think any decisions are going to be made based on we've got to get cap compliant. Any cutting. I don't think they're cutting guys to get under the cap. They never have.
Keeping Derek's really the move that you're doing. That creates the room to kind of make every decision on its own
Every
merit.
decision is going to be made on its own merits. I do not think Cam Jordan or Taysom Hill come back without significant pay cuts.
Significant.
Yeah. And I bet they work out significant pay cuts and keep both of them, would be my bet. I think Demario and Tyrann already took the pay cuts last year, and I bet they stay. I think the only cuts are going to be football-based cuts. I predicted Jamal Williams. I think that's an easy one. Maybe Nathan Shepard or Colin Saunders, or Nathan Shepard and Colin Saunders. But none of it is going to be in the we're ripping the Band-Aid off, we're trying to speed forward, we're trying to get younger, I think they're all going to be made on their own merits, and I bet we see most of those guys back.
Yeah, I definitely don't think anything happens with Demario. Kellen Moore said they might have one of the best linebacker tandems in the league today. So I don't really see anything happening there. I don't really have a feel for anything else. So I don't really know. I'm not deep enough into the weeds yet to really know who fits Staley's defense, who doesn't, how everyone's going to be used, what they're looking for out of specific positions. In the case of Cam, I think that's really just going to be decided on more so if they're aligned in the vision of how next season
he's going to be used.
Yeah. Does he have
I think that matters more than the money. I think he will give them the pay cut. Yeah.
If he likes what he's hearing, I think Cam's, he doesn't want to uproot everybody and go start over all that. I think he comes back if the role, but if it isn't, you're going to get this many snaps, this is how we're going to use you, where you're going to line up, and this is how it's going to look. I think he goes.
Yeah, it has to be a chance at 5+ sacks for him. That's really important to him. That's how he wants to be used.
Too. Yeah. He's at this point. If he isn't going to find it here, let him go somewhere else and find it. Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. I don't think Taysom gets cut though. I feel confident saying he's not going to get, as long as his rehab goes well. I don't. Am I crazy?
No, and They told us a couple times that they want to wait and see how the rehab goes, which makes me wonder if they're, if they're going to get creative with the salary, to buy more time. We just saw Miami doing that with Teron Armstead. But I think they're going to keep that door open as long as they possibly can. I think they want him here. I don't think he wants to retire. We haven't heard any indications he wants to retire, but it might all depend on what's it looking like when he's back on the football field, or when he's about ready to get back on the football field. They can't make that decision in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so.
Older guy. I mean, there's definitely things you gotta see before you kind of figure. I think maybe you even got to see him on the field before you decide what you're paying him next season. Honestly, that might be the thing that determines it. We're gonna hit a quick break and then hit the Martin's question of the day.
Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients.
This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. Services include AC and heating, service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. Martin's is your go-to destination for everything merry and bright this holiday season. From an unmatched selection of bourbon, whiskeys, and wines to gourmet food, gift baskets, and catering, Martin's has all your holiday needs covered. Family owned and operated since 1946, Martin's knows the perfect ways to celebrate this season with loved ones. Visit them in Metairie, New Orleans, or Baton Rouge, or shop online for the ultimate convenience. Whether you're raising a glass or looking for the perfect holiday gift, make it an easy and cheerful holiday with Martin's. Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees, all just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street.
Welcome to the Queen Casino, the crown jewel of entertainment destinations. From the thrill of gaming, where every spin and deal brings you closer to fortune, to the excitement of sports betting, where you can feel the rush of victory. Our spaces and catering menu are perfect for any event. From business meetings to grand celebrations, immerse yourself in our vibrant atmosphere with live music that keeps the party going all night long. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
Welcome back to the show. It's now time for the Martin's question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's is so much more than just wine. They got a great deli too, so make sure you go and check that out. The question today is, why does it feel like the team is just content to be just good enough to compete in this horrible division, but not good enough to make a playoff run, keeping the Saints just out of reach of a franchise QB? I think we just spent the last 30 minutes.
I have a very specific answer to this. I chose this question because I've crafted my answer to this question. I know I said it once on the pod with Kevin. I can't remember if I said it on the show, but there were a couple keywords in there that have emerged in this conversation. Why are the Saints content to ... I don't think they're content to. We can disagree, and I think we both disagree with their approach. I think we think they should fast forward the process, and being bad is not a bad thing.
About it, yeah.
But being bad is not a bad thing because it can lead to the better quarterback. I don't want to be the Titans, but I want to have the first pick in the draft. But I don't think the Saints are content to just be a 10-win team every day. I genuinely believe that their philosophy is the philosophy of the Steelers. They mention them a lot. Packers, Ravens, Eagles. There's a couple other teams like that just have never bottomed out. And I looked this up one time. The Ravens, after Flacco took them to the Super Bowl, they had a 3-year stretch where they won like 6, 7, 8. The Saints in 14, 15, 16 won 7, 7, 7. They believe if you do that and then you draft Jalen Hurts, or you draft Lamar Jackson, or you have a 2017 draft class, then you go from a 7-win team to a 13-win team, as they did in 2017 and 2018. Like, their philosophy is, we're not content to be a 10-win team, but we want to stay around 7, 8, 9, so that if we ever do hit on a draft class, hit on 2 draft classes in a row, find our next star quarterback, then we're off and running. They just don't ever want to go down to 2. And 15. So it doesn't mean they're content to stay at 10 forever. They just want to stay in the 7 to 10 zone always. That we can disagree with it. Everyone can disagree with it. But I just don't think that means, no, we just want to be a 10-win team forever.
I don't disagree or agree with it. I just have a preference right now going the route.
I agree.
But the wild thing is like, it's just such a conundrum, man. Like, you got to risk being the Commanders to be the Commanders.
That was,
like, you know what I mean? Like,
if Brandon were, he'd say that was a bar.
Like, it's such a conundrum though. Like, you could just, you're the Commanders until like you're the Commanders. Like,
you're the Bengals until you're the Bengals.
Yeah, like
you're the Lions until you're the Lions.
The Bengals aren't. They were bad for a while. Like, I'm like, there was a long time between Palmer and Burrow. Yeah.
Actually, that's not true. I just made the argument for the other people. The Marvin Jones Bengals era were the current Saints. Weren't they just winning like 8-9 games every single
man, that
year
sucked
in the
until they
Marvin
got the
Jones era?
Burrow.
Yeah.
It's just tough, man. It really is. It's such a
You
conundrum.
need your Burrow. You need your Jaden Daniels.
There's, like, no
all
real-
this other stuff is wasted oxygen.
There's no real answer, and like unless like
The Ravens don't do it without lucking into Lamar at pick 32. The Eagles don't do it without
Yeah.
lucking into Hurts at 50. The Bengals don't do it without finally hitting Burrow at 1. Like
it's like you can keep trying and try to get lucky, or you can stop trying and try to get lucky. And
you need to
like,
luck either way.
So yeah, I don't know. We're gonna see how this thing plays out. It just got a lot more interesting though, because like we kind of know a path, and it might not be the path that a lot of people were looking for. But I don't know. I'm kind of like, I'm eager to see how it plays out, because like there is a multitude of possible results here, and we're gonna start dissecting them, and we're gonna keep dissecting them. So thanks for watching the show. We'll talk to you next time.